For me, useful arts are kind of a point of overlap and conjunction where all of the kind of creativity and all of the innovation that you'd usually associate with contemporary art and the art world starts to make things happen in the real world. So it's no longer simply representational, it activates and actualizes real situations for the benefit of change. I've been involved, I guess, in what you could call the useful art movement for nearly 25 years now. And I was wanting to write a book which was around about that history. And when I started talking with MU Press and Emma Brennan, Emma wonderfully suggested that I should perhaps think of writing a book that had a broader appeal. Because of that involvement, was more autoethnographic from my own point of view. The other why now is also about, I think there's a point of urgency. There are cultural shifts that are happening at the moment, which I'd argue make useful art more important than ever as a tool for social change. Apart from Donald Trump, I think people who are very, very interested in art and the art world, but who have more often not in the West been kind of alienated from that via their education. They don't see themselves as artists, they don't see themselves as being able to draw, like some people can't see themselves as being able to sing or whatever. And it's an opportunity for those people to kind of be able to help us all rethink what the capacities and capabilities of art could actually be or become at the time that they're also helping themselves and each other to kind of re-empower our social body, really. I think it's chapter 4 was probably the most difficult to write, because that's the chapter where some of the theoretical ideas that underpin kind of my interest in useful art in the first place started to bubble up. And it was a really interesting challenge to write that in a way that wasn't a book in itself, and to start to map out some of the claims or ideas that we might be better to start thinking in terms of use value rather than aesthetic value. Mm-hmm. And in terms of taking back what's been lost or stolen as forms of re-empowerment in a way that was quite succinct and not too underpinned by my own kind of personal crutch of theory. That's a difficult one, because there's genuinely so many of them on all kinds of different scales, big and small. One of the clearest examples, I think, of how a useful art project can grow and change and become adopted and be taken on by other people, not just the artist, I mentioned in the book, and it's probably Owen Griffiths' Vetch Veg, simply because it was a community project. The old Swansea football club had been torn down, that literally left a physical hole in a community. They negotiated a short-term lease to do a community project. It's only supposed to last for 9 months. He worked with the community and they started to develop it and grow things. That was back in 2011. It's still going on. It's a community resource. It's been seen as a future Wales project. It's had an effect on the Arts Council, and it's also had a direct political effect as well. The first Minister for Sustainability for Swansea in the Welsh Government came about largely through some of the influences of that project. So it's something that started small, started because people wanted to re-empower themselves, and has mushroomed and grown. I think that's because they, on one hand, those activities are so ready to hand. We all cook, we all have an opportunity more often than not to grow, but we're also on the whole so alienated away from what it's like to cook and prepare food, what it's like to grow, myself included, that it's a very, very good starting point for people to rethink, re-empower, and to be social as well. You know, both growing and especially cooking are kind of social activities. So I think there's no kind of surprise that it's a very opportune way of beginning to start useful art projects, which then grow into other kind of activities. It's to rethink themselves as useful artists. It's to enable people to think, well, I actually possess skills, I actually know how to do things, I could share them with others, learn from other people as well. And together, even on a very small scale, we could find ways to affect our environment in all kinds of different ways and at different levels, and that could be happen immediately. You know, whether that's people starting to grow things together who might be aging and lonely, to people who want to readdress the fact that there's different forms or levels of poverty in their situation. But ultimately, it's about people beginning to find ways to re-empower themselves and to know that by doing that, they're useful artists. It enables people who wouldn't otherwise see themselves as being artists or belonging to the art world can use the creativity that's embedded in art as a tool to make their and each other's lives better. There's not a kind of a nutshell piece of advice, but one of the things that I was thinking of when I was writing the book is when I became interested in useful art, I myself hadn't realised that was largely because it presented a way for the art world to begin to think outside and beyond itself. I now see, because of the social and political and economic changes that are overtaking the planet at the moment, that its importance lies far beyond that. It's something that I firmly believe we need to negotiate and use as a tool to operate some changes to resist the current political drift towards the right. I hope readers will take away a new perspective, an invite to think of art in a different way, an empowerment to know that by thinking of art in a different way, that's not somehow wrong. They have a right to an opinion, but that opinion shouldn't be simply I don't like it or it's nonsense. It's much more about how people can use art as a tool, as you said, I've already alluded to this, for social change.